The first thing I notice is that two of these words basically mean the same thing. On the other hand, and nonetheless, are basically both but words. They're both making some sort of contrast or dismissing some idea in favor of an opposite idea. So I don't love either of them already. I haven't even read the passage because it's very unlikely that, one of them is right and the other's wrong. If they mean basically the same thing in a dumb summary kind of way, that's not great. Additionally, also is an and word. More often, I don't really have an equivalent. I would just say that has to do with time, right? So if the passage is emphasizing the passage of time in some way or the frequency of an event, then I wouldn't be surprised if I needed a choice that does that. But let's take a look. I'm not always just crossing out those doubles right away because maybe there is some nuance to a hard question that I'd want to make sure I understand first, but it's not looking good for B and D. Let's leave it at that for now. Mountain climbing routes that incorporate metal rungs and cables are known as via ferratas, from the Italian phrase for iron path. As climbing these routes has shifted from a mode of travel to a sporting activity, modern via ferratas are rarely designed to simply reach a summit. New routes favor recreation over utility, aiming to provide a challenging climb or showcase dramatic scenery. Okay, is it a but? I don't think so, right? That it's shifted from a mode of travel to a sporting activity. Modern via ferratas are rarely designed to simply reach a summit, but new routes favor recreation over utility. No, it's not a contrast. They're saying the same thing. They're saying that the new routes are not merely to reach a summit, not merely to get to the top. They have another purpose. This next sentence is going into a more specific version of what that purpose is, but it's not contrasting with the previous sentence. It's reiterating it. So again, I wasn't really leaning towards B and D anyway, but there you go. So now, and kind of works. Like, there's nothing wrong with an and transition, but I got to check the other one. If the other one kind of works too, then I got to go with C because it actually does transition things. So let's see. More often. So it has to do with time. As climbing these routes have shifted, so maybe shifting is going on, right? From a mode of travel to a sporting activity, modern is time related. Via ferratas are rarely designed to simply reach a summit, right? Rarely is how often something happens. More often, new routes favor recreation over utility, right? So they're rarely designed for utility to reach the summit, the top. More often, the thing that happens more commonly is that new routes favor recreation, aiming to provide a challenging climb or showcase dramatic scenery. Yeah, this fits. The College Board classifies this as a hard question. I think it's kind of obvious. I don't really know why anyone would pick anything else. The only thing I can really think of here is that choice C is so unfamiliar that you're just scared to pick it because you're like, I don't see words like that. That's not that. I don't know what that means. I don't know. But I don't know. It's kind of self-explanatory. It's not one you would need to have studied before you saw this question to know how to use it. More, that word. Often, that word. Something happens more often. And then, of course, I'm not picking this randomly. The very previous sentence says something that happens rarely. So in a way, there almost is like a contrast. Like, it's rarely designed to simply reach a summit. More often, these now routes favor recreation. So again, going back to B and D, if you're looking for a really clear way to be like, wait a minute, if it's a contrast, why aren't I picking those? The answer is that B and D are just purely a contrast that has nothing to do with frequency or time. They are very simply the same thing. And so that strategy of crossing out two answers that have the same basic meaning allows us to get rid of those choices without really having to consider them too much. Whereas D isn't a contrast word. It works is in a contrast kind of way here, but it's not a contrast word by itself. So I wouldn't have eliminated it along with the others. But the point is we're not contrasting the two sentences. I think that's the key, is with a lot of these transition questions, there's a temptation to summarize the passage with the transition word and be like, oh, they're making a contrast overall between what via ferratas used to do and what they do now. That is true as a summary of the passage. But remember, we're filling in a specific point of the passage, a specific blank. So the word we're filling in isn't summarizing everything. It has to fit in that specific spot. That previous sentence is not contrasting with the other one. The second sentence here, sentence 2, is leading us in to sentence 3, right? They rarely are designed to reach a summit, where we are creating an overall contrast between what they used to do and what they do now. But notice how we're leading in at the end of the second sentence to what they do now. And then the third sentence is explicitly saying what they do now. So we're not contrasting. We're continuing, we're building towards something. And I think maybe that's why even choice A would seem kind of tempting, as it feels like we're adding on, right? But really, again, the strategy saves me here is I'm not going to pick an and word unless everything else is provably wrong. The fact that even if you were 50-50 between A and C, you got to pick C because of this little strategy that and words are going to basically work everywhere because they don't really do anything. So we only pick them when everything else fails. So here, I think C is totally fine. We've got a lot of clues to support it. You've got to follow the strategies and pick that, even if there's little pieces of you that instinctively want to go in other directions. I think the strategy really keeps us on track here.